The truth they don't tell you about reaching the top. Good evening. I want to start tonight by introducing you to someone who is rewriting the rules on what it means to succeed, to arrive, to finally make it. Her name is Keisha Hunter, and she is a disruptor in the truest sense of the word, a visionary who refused to let Black women stay silent about the invisible weight they carry after they've climbed every ladder, shattered every glass ceiling, checked every box, and still, somehow, feel like they're standing on shaky ground. Keisha Hunter is reminding us of something we've been too afraid to say out loud. The real work doesn't happen on the way up, it happens after the climb. And what she shared with me will fundamentally shift the way you see ambition, success, and your own untapped power. So let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What if everything you've been told about success, about making it, about finally arriving at the top is only half the story? What if the climb, the grind, the hustle to get there isn't actually the hardest part? What if the hardest part, the part no one prepared you for, is what comes after? When you've reached the peak, when you've done everything right, when you've outworked, outperformed, out hustled everyone around you, and you look around and you realize something terrifying. You're exhausted, you're isolated, and the system that promised you a seat at the table never actually built a table big enough for you to sit at. This is the reality for Black women in 2026, and Keisha Hunter is calling it exactly what it is: raw truth, resilience, and the radical revolutionary act of reflection after the climb. Here's what we don't talk about enough: we celebrate the climb, we applaud the promotions, we post the LinkedIn updates, we throw the parties, but we don't talk about what happens when you get there and realize the environment you fought so hard to enter was never designed to sustain you. We don't talk about the loneliness that creeps in at night, the burnout that lives in your bones, the quiet question that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning. Is this it? Is this really all there is? The 2026 Women in the Workplace report just dropped, and the number should make every single one of us stop in our tracks. For every 100 men promoted to first line management, only 60 Black women make it. 60? Let that sink in for a moment, and it gets worse. 60% of senior level women are burned out. Not tired, not stressed, burned out. And here's the part that should infuriate you: only 31% of entry level women have a sponsor, someone with real power advocating for them behind closed doors, compared to 45% of men. So, Black women are climbing, yes, but they're climbing alone. And when they finally get to the top, they're expected to keep performing, keep leading, keep holding it all together with no support, no safety net, and no one protecting their trajectory. No one fighting for them when they're not in the room. Keisha Hunter calls this the ambition gap. And let me be clear, it's not called the ambition gap because Black women lack ambition. It's called the ambition gap because the return on investment for their labor is so devastatingly low, so painfully invisible, that many are starting to ask themselves a question that changes everything: why am I still here? And that question, that moment of clarity, that's where the transformation begins. Let me tell you about Kyra Rennell Hardwick. She's the founder and CEO of the Kira Company, and she is living, breathing proof that Black women don't just survive the climb, they redefine what's possible after the climb. Kira built her company right in the middle of a workforce reset, a time when diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives were being quietly rolled back, when companies were dropping their commitments to women's advancement from 70% down to 50%. She watched Black women get pushed out of C suites under the polite guise of restructuring. She saw the disproportionate exits. She saw the rising unemployment numbers. She saw over 600,000 Black women leave the workforce in 2025 alone. But here's what Kira understood that most people missed: the skills that Black women have been using just to survive: pattern recognition, adaptability, systems thinking, reading a room in seconds, anticipating risk before it arrives, navigating incomplete information with precision. Those aren't just survival skills, those are the exact skills that the AI driven economy is going to demand. Algorithmic thinking, the ability to make high stakes decisions in environments where the data is messy, where the rules are unclear, where you have to trust your instincts and your lived experience to move forward with confidence. Kira didn't just survive the reset, she leveraged it. She turned necessity into strategy. She turned survival into innovation. She advocated fiercely for sponsorship, not mentorship. She demanded high impact assignments that showcased her full range. She insisted on flexibility that honored both her visibility and her well being. And she positioned Black women not as diversity hires, not as tokens, but as innovation assets that companies cannot afford to lose. That's what happens after the climb. You stop asking for permission, you start demanding structure, you stop performing resilience for an audience that will never applaud, you start leveraging it for your own liberation. Now, let me introduce you to Angela Alexander. She's the executive director of the North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency, and she spends her days certifying minority and women owned businesses in the middle of staggering economic uncertainty. Angela is on the front lines, watching Black women navigate wage disparities, underemployment, low access to capital, and a so called DEI landscape that too often benefits white women while leaving Black women further and further behind. But Angela isn't just documenting the problem, she's building the solution. She's creating real pathways for entrepreneurship. She's pushing for structural retention, not symbolic inclusion. She's advocating for skill development in tech verticals. She's fighting for certification programs that actually open doors. She's championing policies like state minimum wage hikes that disproportionately benefit Black women who have been underpaid for far too long. Angela knows what Keisha Hunter knows, that after the climb, you have to reckon with the truth. The truth that you've been carrying more than your job description, the truth that you've been doing the work of three people and getting credit for one, the truth that the system isn't broken at all. It was built this way. It was designed to extract your labor and give you just enough recognition to keep you quiet. And once you see that truth, you can't unsee it. But here's the gift hidden in that painful revelation: once you see it, you can finally choose differently. Let's talk about something that's been invisible for far too long: the managerial tax. This is the invisible labor that Black women managers carry every single day without recognition, without reward, without rest. They're doing the culture work, they're mentoring junior staff, they're advocating for DEI initiatives that leadership won't fund, they're smoothing over conflicts that no one else wants to touch. They're translating between leadership and their teams. And none of it, absolutely none of it, shows up in their performance reviews. None of it gets rewarded, none of it gets recognized, none of it counts. The 2026 Women in the Workplace study calls this the broken rung. It's the place where Black women get stuck, not because they're not qualified, not because they're not working hard enough, but because the system refuses to see their full labor. And when they do get promoted, they're expected to keep doing all of that invisible work plus their actual job with no additional support, no additional resources, and no additional recognition. This is why 60% of senior women are burned out. This is why the ambition gap is widening like a chasm. This is why over 600,000 Black women left the workforce in 2025. Not because they gave up, but because they woke up. They woke up to the fact that they had outgrown environments that were never going to grow with them. They woke up to the fact that their labor was being exploited under the language of opportunity. They woke up to the fact that they deserved better and they were brave enough to walk away. And that's the insight Keisha Hunter wants you to sit with tonight. After the climb, you might realize you've outgrown the very thing you worked so hard to achieve. And that's not failure. That's not giving up. That's clarity. That's power. That's freedom. So, what do you do with that clarity? First, you secure sponsorship, not mentorship. Let me be crystal clear about the difference. Mentorship is advice, mentorship is coffee meetings, mentorship is kind words and encouragement. Sponsorship is advocacy, sponsorship is power. Sponsorship is someone with influence using that influence to open doors for you, to assign you high impact projects that showcase your brilliance, to protect your trajectory when you're not in the room, to say your name when opportunities come up, to make sure your labor is visible and valued and compensated accordingly. Black women need sponsors. They need people who will fight for them behind closed doors. They need people who will use their power to dismantle the barriers that keep Black women stuck. Second, you leverage your inherent skills. Black women have been doing algorithmic thinking their entire lives. They've been reading environments with precision. They've been anticipating risks before anyone else saw them coming. They've been making brilliant decisions with incomplete data. They've been navigating systems that were never designed for them and still finding ways to thrive. Those skills are gold in the AI era. Tech jobs are projected to create millions of opportunities by 2026. But here's the problem: only 21% of women are being encouraged to develop technical fluency compared to 33% of men. Black women need to demand access to that training, to those resources, to those opportunities, because they already have the foundation, they already have the skills, they just need the tools and the access. Third, you demand structural commitment, not symbolic gestures. Companies are dropping their priorities around women's advancement. They're rolling back DEI initiatives. They're restructuring in ways that disproportionately push Black women out while protecting everyone else. So, Black women need to stop accepting performative allyship and start demanding structural change. Flexibility that rewards ambition, not punishes it. Recognition of full labor in performance reviews, not just the work that's easy to measure. Pathways to leadership that don't require them to sacrifice their mental health, their families, their well being, their very souls. And if the environment won't change, if the organization refuses to see you, if the culture continues to extract without investing, you leave. You outgrow it. You walk away with your head held high. You build something new. You create a table of your own. Because here's what Keisha Hunter taught me in our conversation, and it's something I will carry with me forever. After the climb, the real power isn't in staying where you are, out of obligation or fear. The real power is in knowing when to walk away. It's in trusting that you've outgrown the space. It's in believing that there's something bigger, something softer, something more aligned, something more worthy of your gifts waiting for you on the other side of that door. This is the soft girl era for Black women in leadership. And let me tell you what it's not. It's not about giving up. It's not about becoming less ambitious. It's not about shrinking. It's about giving yourself permission to rest, to reflect, to redefine what success looks like on your own terms. It's about dropping the superwoman cape that's been choking you for years and saying out loud, I don't have to carry this anymore. It's about learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival was the only option. So here's my question for you tonight. And I want you to sit with this, really sit with it. If you've reached a peak, but feel the crushing weight of unrecognized labor, if you're carrying the managerial tax that no one will name, If you're navigating the ambition gap and wondering if anyone even notices, if you're burned out and isolated and questioning if this is all there is, well, I'll ask yourself this: who is sponsoring your next chapter? And are you ready, truly ready to demand the structural flexibility, the recognition, the support, the power to stand fully in who you are after the climb? Because the real work doesn't happen on the way up. The real work happens when you get there and realize you've outgrown the environment. It happens when you choose yourself over the system. It happens when you stop performing resilience for people who will never see you and start leveraging it for your own freedom, your own future, your own legacy. Keisha Hunter is showing us the way forward. And the way forward isn't about climbing higher, it's about standing firmer. It's about raw truth. It's about resilience. It's about reflection. It's about knowing that reaching the top doesn't end the journey. It reveals who you truly are, and it gives you the power to decide what comes next. So, here's what I want you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, this week, right now. Identify one sponsor, not a mentor, a sponsor, someone with real power who can advocate for you in rooms you'll never enter, and pitch them a high impact assignment tied to your resilience, tied to your skills, tied to your vision, tied to the brilliance you've been hiding because no one ever made space for it. And if you're in an environment that refuses to see you, that refuses to value you, that refuses to grow with you, that continues to extract your labor while giving you crumbs in return, give yourself permission to outgrow it. Give yourself permission to walk away. Give yourself permission to build something new. Because after the climb, the real power, the lasting power, the transformative power is yours. It always has been. It's time you claimed it.